Rivalry and Ambition in Rome, Messalina and Agrippina the Younger. The year 38 AD was a crucial period for many of us in Rome, a city that was both a theater and a battlefield. In those days, my path crossed that of Agrippina the Younger, and I knew from the start that she was a woman worthy of attention. Though I did not know it then, her name would be intertwined with mine in the intrigues that would define our time. Agrippina had returned to Rome with a mixture of glory and disgrace. She was the daughter of Germanicus, an almost mythical figure, but also the heiress of a family beset by misfortune. In the Senate and in the markets, her name whispered respect and suspicion in equal measure. I watched her from a distance at first, trying to decipher whether this woman, with her haughty bearing and incisive gaze, was an ally or a rival. Agrippina was different. Where other women of our time were content with supporting roles, she walked as if power was her birthright. She was calculating and cool-headed, but her ambition shone like the edge of a sword. Though she had yet to reveal her true intentions, something in me warned me to keep her close and watchful. Agrippina had a lineage that made her untouchable in the eyes of many. Her father, Germanicus, had been loved by the legions and revered by the people. Her mother, Agrippina the Elder, represented virtue and resilience. But I saw in Agrippina something more than an heiress to an illustrious dynasty. I saw a strategist, a woman who understood how to use her personal history as a weapon. By 38 AD, I was already married to Claudius and beginning to consolidate my influence at court. Agrippina, for her part, was a young and attractive widow, which made her even more dangerous. At Senate meetings and imperial banquets, our eyes frequently met, each sizing the other up. Agrippina had an uncanny ability to enter key conversations without being directly invited. Where I used charm and seduction to win over powerful men, she employed the intelligence and moral authority that came with her lineage. She was like a shadow that slowly spread out, claiming space without making a sound. I remember one occasion when, at an imperial banquet, he managed to captivate a group of senators by speaking of the glories of his father. His tone was humble, but his words were calculated to evoke admiration and loyalty. Meanwhile, I had to maneuver through critical glances, aware that my own methods were judged more severely. In those days, gossip was constant. Agrippina was seen as a virtuous and honorable woman, a devoted mother and a descendant of Roman heroes. I, on the other hand, was already beginning to be the subject of rumors and scandals, some true, others fabricated by those who feared my rise. She never attacked directly, but her mere presence was enough to remind everyone that I didn't have her lineage or her veneer of righteousness. Virtue was her armor, and she used it to protect herself while she built her network of allies. I, on the other hand, used my charisma and cunning to maintain my place in a world that was unforgiving of women like me. In 38 AD, Agrippina began to ally herself with key figures in the Senate and the Praetorian Guard. She did so with a mastery that even I had to admire. While I manipulated emotions and desires, she appealed to reason and duty. She knew how to present herself as an indispensable piece on the chessboard of power. I remember a banquet where, without saying a single word directly against me, she managed to get several senators to reconsider their support for one of my initiatives. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible, but profoundly effective blow. It was then that I understood that Agrippina was not only a threat to me, but to anyone who stood in her way. Agrippina also cultivated an image of a devoted mother. Her son, the young Lucius Domitius, was presented as the heir to a glorious dynasty. Although Nero was only a child in those days, Agrippina was already planting the seeds of his future. In 38 AD, neither Agrippina nor I could have imagined how far our rivalry would go. She was still a widow trying to find her place in Rome, and I was just consolidating my position as empress. But even then, I saw in her a woman destined for great things, for better or worse. Agrippina and I shared much more than either of us could have imagined. We both understood that power in Rome was not a gift, but something to be seized with cunning and determination. But our strategies were different, and those differences would make us inevitable enemies. Years later, Agrippina would be the wife of Claudius and the mother of the Emperor Nero, but at this moment, in 38 AD, she was merely a lurking shadow. A shadow that I, Messalina, did not underestimate for a moment. There was something almost poetic about our rivalry. Agrippina represented order, tradition, and the continuity of the lineage, while I embodied audacity, ambition, and the desire to break the chains of the established order. Agrippina the Younger was a woman who inspired both admiration and fear. Even in 38 AD, when our lives were just beginning to intersect, I knew she would be a formidable opponent. While I don't always share Agrippina's methods, I must admit that her ability to weave alliances and project an image of perfection was worthy of admiration.